With the NFL draft on the horizon, we're going to take a look at our top 10 rookie running back rankings one more time, but this time we're going to split it up into tiers and see how we have these players grouped. So let's start with the top. It's pretty unanimous that Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, in some sort of order, are going to be the top two backs. Javonte Williams is kind of creeping into the discussion. He is almost surely going to be a top 3 running back. So let me ask you, Chris, does landing spot really matter in terms of how you have them ranked? Do you think that that can flip Harris and Etienne as in terms of where you have, somebody number 1 versus number 2?
Oh, absolutely. I know right now a lot of people are projecting Harris to Pittsburgh at number 24, which, look, I love Najee Harris. I think he's a great player. I think he'll be fine in that offense. But that offensive line is really, really bad. And if they go running back in the first round, it's going to be really hard for them to shore up that offensive line. I know people say this is a really deep offensive line class, but when you're talking about, drafting an offensive lineman, middle end of the second round or maybe even the third round, those guys aren't necessarily studs anymore. So I definitely think, there's some spots like Miami, where, if Javonte Williams, I know maybe has been rumored there, or Travis Etienne, if one of those guys land there, because we know Miami, they want to feature a running back. We saw it last year with Gaskin and Ahmed, whoever was healthy, they got pretty much all the work. So I think there definitely are some spots where one of these guys, Williams or Etienne, could leapfrog Najee Harris if he does indeed land with Pittsburgh at number 24.
Yeah, landing spot has to matter. There's not a running back. There's not a guy who's like a Saquon Barkley a couple years ago who just stands out and he's the guy that's going to lead this class. Harris seems to be the most complete back and, has the size and physicality, slight edge on Etienne. Etienne, of course, does have the speed in the open field. But yeah, landing spot has to matter. So I do have just barely Harris ahead of Etienne. Steelers may not be the dream spot everybody thinks. I know they're going to probably use whoever they draft the most. But again, without an offensive line, it doesn't matter who's back there, right? They're going to get pummeled. The running backs in Pittsburgh last year, whoever was out there, just didn't have much of a chance. And the problem is, I don't see a lot of teams that do need a guy to be their lead back that are probably willing to spend a pick early to take one. I have a feeling this is going to be a draft where maybe one of them is taken in the first round, and that's it. A lot of guys are going to fall, kind of like last year. So right now, I agree, but you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Javonte Williams lands in a better spot and winds up being a more productive pro. And I have to say, whoever winds up with the Jets, I'm probably going to have to drop quite a bit in my rankings. Now, let's look at the next group of running backs who are going to enter the draft. Talking about guys like Michael Carter, Kenny Gainwell, Chuba Hubbard, and Trey Sermon. It depends on which site, which analyst you ask. The rankings among these players are going to be all mixed up. I know we have Carter right now in the lead, followed by Gainwell with Sermon at number 7, Hubbard kind of in the middle there at number 6. Obviously, the landing spot makes a difference here, but who stands out to you the most? If one of these players you think might have the best opportunity to take over a featured back role in the NFL, who do you think it might be?
Oh, man, that's a tough question because I think they all could do that, but I really like Carter and Gainwell the most because of what they do in the passing game. And I think that's NFL teams are going to see that and like that as well. To me, Carter's a little bit safer of the 4 as far as, could handle the every down role. But we saw Gainwell in Memphis handle that every down role. I'm just not sure if NFL teams view him that way, although maybe with what Antonio Gibson did last year, they will think that. So to me, it's as much as I like Chuba and I like Trey Sermon, I just think Gainwell and Carter are the safest bets out of these 4 to have an every down role.
I'll tell you honestly, Carter makes me a little bit nervous just because I knew he was kind of a product of an offense that was definitely an explosive offense, of course, with Javonte Williams there sharing time. They both had their moments, but a lot of, the yardage he gained was in these routes, right? These huge games. They had the ACC wasn't tremendously strong this year. And I can tell you, I know they both ran over the Hurricanes in that game, but I feel like to some extent, maybe a product of that system, but also, his 4.6 time, I know 40 time is not the end all be all. Trust me, I don't put too much stock into it, but if the guy doesn't have that breakaway speed, I feel like he might slightly disappoint in terms of what we expect from him. So he just makes me a little bit nervous. I think I like Gainwell slightly better, but the guy really I'm interested in is Sermon to see where he lands, because even though he also ran a 4.6, he's a guy that does have a lot of twitch and elusiveness. And so I think that he wasn't utilized as much as he could have been in college. I think with the right fit, he's a guy who could surprise pleasantly. And now let's go to the final group here. Now, of course, several running backs, probably going to be day 3 picks. And out of the group that we're going to look at for our top 10, we now have Elijah Mitchell, Rhamondre Stevenson, and Kylin Hill. We've talked about Hill quite a bit, and I know we're getting him in a lot of best ball drafts because of the pass catching ability, but I know Stevenson is a guy that could surprise also. Who do you think stands out as probably your favorite of these late round picks?
Actually, my favorite these days is Elijah Mitchell. It was Kylin Hill, but after he ran that blazing 4.3 40, even if you say like, hey, whatever, it's pro days, even if that was like a 4.4 or a 4.45, that's an incredible time for a guy his size. And I think NFL teams are just going to fall in love with that. He's a guy that I've been drafting. I get him routinely around pick 200 in my best ball drafts, which is, I don't know, round 18, round 19. I could see him, being a surprise date, second round, third round pick, and seeing his ADP shoot up. So he's the guy that I really like out of that group. Although I also very much like Kylin Hill. But to me, Elijah Mitchell is the top of those 3.
Yeah, Mitchell's a guy, honestly, wasn't real high on my radar until now. I'm going to have to take a closer look and watch some more of his game film, but definitely somebody to keep an eye on. I do still like Kylin Hill. Like I said, I think he's got the most potential to be utilized in the pros because, of course, running backs now aren't just runners. They are pass catchers just as equally as they are runners. Stevenson, honestly, I'm fading because I see a little bit too much A.J. Dillon in him, and I'm not using that as a compliment. The big guy who can bruise and then also has speed, but somehow just doesn't get it done in volume terms. I know in college, maybe, but in the pros, it's a little bit different. You can't run over guys quite as easily. So I know he might have the physical traits that everyone's looking for, but I just don't know that he's going to get, the kind of work that he would need to be productive in the pros. Now, I don't know. We'll see. Could be proven wrong, but I'm a little bit worried about him. I prefer a guy who I know is going to have a bigger role like Hill. All right, so those are our top 10 rookie running backs pre-draft. Everything's going to change shortly, and we'll be back, of course, to talk about our new and revised rookie running back rankings to help you prepare for your dynasty leagues and redraft leagues, which guys are going to help you win in 2021. All right, thanks for checking us out.